Welcome to DT Madness, Chronicles from the Third Life, Episode 83, February 23rd, 2024. This is a special Friday night edition. 6 moons since my pa passed on to the great beyond. So welcome, and so glad you could make it. Well, first we'll start with a little peek inside the madness, but there's only two faculty bathrooms at the high school, and one of them down on my end of the building is for both men and women. The ones up at the upper end, there's a men's and a women's kind of separated. So um, you got to pick your spots for sure. This new one is, or the one down at the bottom has a new fan, I guess, over the past several months, and it is very powerful. And it's pretty great because when you flip the switch for the exhaust fan to come on in that bathroom, it creates enough suction to close the door, and it's just one of those things that makes me really really glad that I will never pull the door all the way closed, but I allow the fan suction to make it happen, and that's a little joy of my life in the high school bathroom. And then going out as I leave the teacher workroom down there, there's a sign that says we're supposed to keep it locked, but it always bothers me when it's locked, and so I don't lock it. But then when I'm leaving, I try to pull the door closed. You ever seen curling? You know what curling is in the Winter Olympics? Like you gotta you gotta push it just the right amount. And so I try to pull the door with the flick of my finger just the right amount so that it will barely click shut. I don't want it to slam too hard. I don't want it to be left open. Although I'm not going back, whichever. But that feeling, probably I'm probably 40% of the time where I can get it to close just right. And that's pretty good. That's pretty good. But another joy of of my life. I guess we'll kick this out right off the gate here, right out of the gate. But I'm gonna pause my Living Lotus therapy sessions for I don't know if indefinitely is right. I have one more kind of to wrap up on March the 4th, and in large part this is because I'm a tennis coach now. That's right. I'm assistant to the tennis coach right now, um, but starting in the fall I'll be the head coach. So I'm learning quite a bit, but that means that all of my afternoons are taken pretty much, and so the 4 o'clock spot, which is where I was doing my sessions. But it's also come to a, we've been talking, Sarah and I have been talking, Sarah, my therapist person, that maybe we're getting to a point where it might be okay for a pause. Anyway, again, I don't know if indefinite is the right word, um, but yeah. So yeah, let's have a little tea time with Mara here, right out of the gate. For those of you who are just joining the podcast, very briefly, the Buddha invites Mara inside the tent, like it's the negative, the evil, or whatever, the trickster, or so to speak, and his attendant tries to keep him outside, but the Buddha says, "Come on in and let's have tea together." And so this is kind of a recognition, a conversation with my shadow, um, that I've tried to do for these 13 months, that I've been in fairly intense therapy sessions, usually twice, probably on average about twice a month. But kind of where I'm at is thinking about this in terms of sadness. That seems to be the hidden, like the underlying part of me that has been protected. You know, if you look at it through a family systems therapy type of lens, where there's these different parts of me that try to defend, and I've got all these defenders like anger and rage and anxiety and shame, and I've got a lot of defenders, um, vanity. I mean, they're all there, and yet what they're protecting against is this profound sadness, and it could be that there are others that are that are you know uh, hidden, but this seems to be the main thing. So I've been thinking of sadness, a, a thread, and certainly the major player is the trauma that I experienced, when I was a kid, and the things that come from that, and in addition to that, the many failures that I have experienced, the addictions that took too long, to break, although my self judgment and self loathing, which is kind of there, my real need for approval, and the physical reaction that I get to criticism. And it isn't, um, it isn't that I think I always do things right. I wish I could make you believe that, or whatever, but like I do have a physical reaction, a gut reaction to criticism, um, which is which is why I've gotten off of Facebook, even when it's not directed at me. If it's a criticism of town policy, especially on Facebook, where people can just hide behind the stupid thing, and so being on Facebook has just been a great thing for me. I got back on just the other day because Hannah's Coffee has made an announcement that they're coming to town, and so I kind of wanted to see what the comments were, and even just yeah, even some of them just gave me that feeling in my gut, and I don't want that anymore. My desire to lead at the Broad River Church that we were a part of for so long, during the Second Life, and that tremendous loss that occurred in the aftermath of all of that, and that I still wrestle with, the loss that of something that just felt in my grasp, like this purposeful, like, I don't know. I guess I need to really try to flesh out what it was that I felt was in my grasp. It wasn't the leadership role. It was the substance. It was the essence. It was the beauty of what that community tried to, you know, reflect. It was not unique, but it was rare. Um, and that whole lack of control, like, these are things I'm wrestling with and have been wrestling with, like, sickness is a huge thing for me, for me, and especially for my kids when they're sick, or the thought of them being sick, and um, that really takes a toll on me. It's that same physical reaction that I feel towards criticism, and that's an interesting thing. I really encourage you, if you don't, to uh, like, notice your body, notice, and that's been a huge change for me, to notice what my nervous system is doing, and then to kind of embrace it and wonder about it, being curious and not judgmental. So, um, but yeah, I've never had control in many regards, like in some senses, because of this split, fractured nature that that I've experienced, and maybe that everybody experiences, but certainly that I've experienced these parts of me that I've pushed to the side and held at bay and hidden and covered up for so long. Um, but I couldn't successfully um, push them out of consciousness, and so I tried for so long with different addictions and such as that and other accomplishments and whatever it was, but never successfully. And so there's that idea that that reality that I've never really had full control, which again fuels that frustration and I've overcompensated in a lot of ways. Like I'm not an overbearing parent, but like I want to make sure that I can do everything for them. I want to try to fix all of their problems, and in the past 13 months I've really made strides with letting them be them and me be me. And of course I want to help. Of course I want to parent, but that's been a big deal, I think, for them too, and for each of us to have our own agency. And so I do overcompensate, um, but it's not all bad. Like one of the ways that I overcompensate is I love to clean the driveway. I love to vacuum or those types of things because I see that there was an issue and that I can solve it right away. And so that it's not all bad, the overcompensation. I mean, there's some really amazing things I think that come from my desire, my longing to be in control, planning great trips and being thoughtful about you know uh, words of encouragement and you know whatever, like being sympathetic and empathetic. So yeah, there's some things and that has informed the way that I lead. It has informed the way that I'm a teacher and the way that I'm a mayor and a dad and a husband and a friend. I hope, although I'm coming back out of that hole. But yeah, I do. I have this longing. I have this longing for the good and the true and the beautiful that I don't. I want to escape the sadness, and I'll speak to that in just a second because that's not really um, the longing, But I have this desire, and it's why I like the movies and the books that I like. It's why I like movies and books that touch on the human factor, on the human condition, that speak to it, that that describe it, that draw you, that draws you into it. Um, and I'm working on this intense desire, this get up and go, this desire to just march. Let's go. And but towards changing the world. And but man, the limitations are daunting, and sometimes paralyzing. The systems of this world are enormous and powerful and mind numbing, and it seems as though a tiny pebble in the bucket of life, making the smallest ripple, really, it makes it difficult to believe that that's a real thing. But you got to believe, y'all, and be live. I'm worried, I'm still worried that people judge me, um, that they know something, about me that I don't know, and that's a thing that I've been working through as well. And I think I'm coming on to the other side of that. And so, ultimately, this thread of sadness, and what it comes down to is I don't want that for you. I don't want that sadness for you. I certainly don't want it for my kids. But the healing that I can sense is that now I understand it's not the sadness, it's the attempt to suppress the sadness. That's what I don't want for them. I don't want them to live in um, a fractured way. I don't want them to try to push away things that may be deemed undesirable or unattractive or, you know, unworthy maybe by our social construct, by our society. Um, I want them to be sad, I do, because there are things that are worth being sad about, and I believe in that mystery of death into life. I do. So I'm learning to recognize the difference between uh, the sadness and the attempt to suppress the sadness, and again, it's my willingness to accept, and more than accept, embrace that sadness that's leading me towards at least more completion. I don't know that we reach wholeness um, on this side, but maybe we do. But yeah, that was a good time, tea time. But yeah, I'm a tennis coach, and that's been pretty awesome. In the first couple days, um, the head coach this year, Coach Peeler, he was out of town, out of country actually, and so I got to run the practice a little bit. But it's been great getting to know the guys. We got 15 guys out there, a ton of freshmen. My boy is one of them, and he's going to be in the top two. Um, he and Carter, who is another freshman, and they'll be battling each other for the next 4 years, and it's going to be amazing to watch. I just really do love the game, and it was something I was watching them play the other day, and Isaac is really talented. My kid is really talented, and he's got a great forehand, a good enough backhand. His serve is inconsistent, but effective when he gets it in, and he's just really quick and agile, and he can get to most balls, and hit them back, and that frustrates a lot of players at this level. Um, but he was playing a couple days ago, and he was holding back. He wasn't going for his full shot, and he was playing not to lose, and he didn't, and it wasn't even close. And so maybe his strategy was effective, but I talked to him because I was thinking about it, like, why do we do that in life? Like, why don't I go ahead and play the shots that I know I have, because I'm afraid I'm going to hit it into the net. I'm afraid I'm going to hit it out. I'm afraid I'm going to lose a point or maybe even the match. And metaphorically, like, I'm afraid that somebody is going to judge me, or that they won't give me their approval, or that I will fail, or that I will feel sadness. But I want to live, and so I'm not saying there aren't times to hold back and play defensively, to hold the line. But more and more, I don't want to hold back my shot. I want to be live, And so we changed our refrigerator mantra for last season. It was Chris Stapleton. Um, Nobody wins, afraid of losing, from the song "Starting Over." And this time I'm taking it from The Who, although we've really been listening to Acoustic Syndicate's version, "Who Are You?" But of course that's The Who. And the question says, "Who are you?" And then it has two blanks for your name, but in the middle it has effing, just like Ron Swanson would say, "I'm Ron freaking Swanson." And so I do want Isaac to know that he's Isaac freaking Thomas. And I left it blank so that it's anybody that looks at it. It's like Whitman says, "I too am untranslatable. I too am untamable. I sound my barbaric yawp over the rooftops of the world." And I believe it's Einstein who says be a voice, not an echo. And I don't mean to insinuate that you just go off willy nilly and say whatever you want to say and not be considerate of other people. A quote I read, I believe, in The Maniac, which is a phenomenal book, that said, questions are the true measure of a man. And so there's still a humility. I don't mean to say that you believe that every shot you have is better than anybody else's shot. Obviously, Isaac can't beat Novak, you know. Um, Isaac's not going to beat most of or many of the players in the conference because they're going to be really good and more than freshmen. So it's not to say that you just believe in yourself and you do everything because you're better than everybody else. No, of course not. But belief, nonetheless, in who you are. But anyway, take a deep breath here. I've been thinking and gears, changing gears. Thing I didn't even have on here. Isaac's been doing driver's ed, the driving part, and I'll tell you about this epic dad fail. I don't even have this as unscripted here, but Isaac never really has driven much. We let Sydney drive a little bit and just down and up the driveway and things like that, and Sam too. And so that when they got into the car for driver's ed, they were relatively familiar with how the thing worked. And we realized Isaac had never really been behind the wheel. Um, and so I wanted to give him a little practice to kind of shake off the nerves some. And so I had him. We were going to take a lap around the neighborhood here. And the first thing I had him do was back up out of the driveway, which I was a stupid thing for me because backing up is difficult. And meanwhile, like I'm telling him to look at the backup camera, and he doesn't know how to exactly use his hands very well. He's obviously nervous, doesn't want to take his hands off the wheel, isn't sure how hard to push the pedals, is a little too firm on the brake. I'm like, yeah, look back and make sure the backup camera beeped as though someone was coming, but it was a false positive. And so there wasn't any cars coming. But then I'm like, you got to look both ways, and I'm just telling him all this stuff. And anyway, he backed up a little too quickly, and we kind of ended up in this shallow ditch across the road. And yeah, he was not about driving life after that, and we had to take a little break. But that was I had to do some real apologizing for putting him in that situation. However, he is three-fourths of the way done with driver's ed. He's a huge fan of cruise control as he got to drive on the highway today. Not a big fan of city driving, but hey, neither am I, and I'm 46. So yeah, changing gears. I think I'm gonna make bookmarks for every one of my students, or at least my AP students. And I think I can do that. I think I can just laminate some paper. That's all I got in mind. But like with a nice little quote on there. But I need to put that on there before I laminate it. So that's going to be tricky because lines and things like that aren't my forte. So they might not be exactly rectangular. But I could poke a little hole up there and like make one of those little tassels. That could be a thing. They would cherish that, wouldn't they? Man, I've been reading. I've been on a tear. I think I'm 8 books in, maybe 9, in 2024. I've read some really good stuff, and but I'm feeling a little bit stuck. North Woods was the last one I finished that I was really glad about, and then I started reading this one called Martha. I'm sorry, called The Way of Integrity by Martha Beck. It's more of a psychology self help type book. I thought it would be good for me, but I think a lot of this stuff is what I'm doing in um, in my Living Lotus sessions, and so I couldn't quite get going in it. And then I started this one by Ed Yong called An Immense World, and I'm going to try to jump back into it, but it's about how animal senses work and the world that reveals to us. But it's not quite the narrative that I was. The narrative doesn't hook me. It's so far it's just a lot of information, and maybe I just need to give it a little bit more of a chance. I will try that tomorrow. So I've just been I've just been looking at all the different lists, like best books of 23 and 22, and what does Obama think? And I just, if it's Good Morning America or Reese's Book Club, I somehow feel like I want to avoid that because I'm definitely in my middle-aged woman phase, but I'm not in for just like a romantic comedy book. I want it to touch humanity, like all these books I've been reading. Oprah's book club really hasn't let me down too much, and I really need her to make her first recommendation of 2024. But anyway, if you've got some if you've got some ideas, the one called Midnight Library, I've almost bought it a couple times. I'm gonna go to the used bookstore tomorrow or sometime in Shelby and look around and see what they got. Um, I've been watching some movies. I've been battling this winter sickness that everybody's got. I've been fighting it off pretty good. Last weekend I was feeling pretty rough and feeling a little bit of it right now. But I woke up last week and really didn't even want to get out of bed. So I just I watched Romeo and Juliet from 1996 with Claire Danes and Leo DiCaprio. And look, when I was in high school, Claire Danes and I are basically the same age, and so when I was in high school, My So-Called Life was on MTV. So you know, Claire and I've had a relationship for a while now, and of course, her and Romeo and Juliet is just wow. She's just it's amazing, and that brought back like a lot of nostalgia for me. But it also is just a really really good movie. The soundtrack is amazing. Um, the interpretation of the story is really fantastic, and I mean, I was in it, man. I was like, mm, I was almost teary eyed, man. Okay, but then I also watched Oppenheimer because it came out on Peacock, and they say all the good things about it, and it was really good. And I've been reading these books like The Maniac and the other one by Labat Labatut. Is that his name? That wrote The Maniac, and of course I read Einstein and I've been watching Big Bang Theory, so I know a little bit about this physics world. Um, but Oppenheimer was good. It was good, but it didn't like blow me away. But I'll tell you what did, and that was Dune. I watched it as well last weekend, and am excited to go to the theater and watch Dune 2. Maybe when the boys get home from Boone for spring break. Um, my my cousin passed away, and that was a sad thing. But he had been struggling for a little while, and so again, just like my old man 6 moons ago, there's a big part of me that's just glad that they're at rest. But I got to tell you, like this guy that gave the eulogy at the funeral was talking about the friendship that my cousin and he had, and he got to telling this story about this guy who got a phone call, and the other guy on the line says, "Hey, I just killed my wife, and I'm thinking about taking my own life. I might need you to come over." And so the guy got in his white Bronco and drove over. And then, of course, it was about OJ. And the guy's name is Al Cowlings. And I didn't even know about this. I didn't even know there was another guy in the Bronco. This is all happening in the 90s too, right? But it was just a bizarre thing at the funeral for this guy to say that, that my cousin was a friend to him, like a man who would come and help you out if you just murdered your wife. But anyway, I don't know why I wanted to tell you that. Let's switch to music, and not too much left here for this Friday night edition. Um, it's Sarah's birthday coming up next week, and so she's been in Greensboro area having a big time with her college girls. So I'm back here in the Nook while Sid and Isaac and all their ruffian friends are making all the noise in my living room. So it was a good time for episode 83 here. But it's a time of music where actually Fish is playing down in Mexico, and this is night 3 of 4. And so I'll be listening to that recording tomorrow morning from tonight because LiveFish app does that for you for $10 a month, and it makes me glad. But I haven't really listened to much Fish since New Year's, since I ran those back, and so I've been trying to listen to some new stuff. What's the guy's name? Zach. It's not the Zach Bryan band. And he's got some pretty good stuff. I'm not into Taylor Swift's music, but I was for the Chiefs, you know, just because I like to see the MAGA melts from them thinking that she's a psyop, but whatever. Man, there's so many angry men running for office. Why is everybody so angry? What is all this outrage? I oh man, like is it? I just don't think most of it's real. That's my thing. Like I know there's some things to be outraged about. Come on, man. But anyway, so Noah Khan, is that how you say his name? I don't know. I try to listen to him some, but so far I haven't really landed on anybody that I want to listen to new. And so we had this conversation about Dave Matthews and what the best studio album was. And so I've been listening to a lot of album Dave and trying to dig into some of his stuff that I haven't listened to before. So that's like new. I am going to have to join the Avett Guild because we're planning to go to Red Rocks next summer, summer of 25. And so I want to try to get in on those early tickets. So I'll probably be joining the Avett Guild sometime later this fall and or late summer, I guess, early fall. I think the Avets are playing in Charlotte May the 3rd, 4th, or 5th at a city festival. So I'm excited about that. And of course, I'm often looking at rumors for Fish Tour coming up. They're at the Sphere soon, and that'll be a thing. One of my friends is going out there for the 4 nights, and I can't wait to hear about that. But the rumor I'm excited about is maybe a Deer Creek rumor in Noblesville, Indiana, which is where I kind of started this fish obsession. This three fish part two for me, early '90s and then now the 2020s. But yeah, if that happens in early August, I'll definitely be heading up. But I don't have too much of an update on my tattoo. I'm definitely going to get the three suns. I think I told y'all about that, so I'm not going to rehash it. But I do want Esequan Vidiri in there. I want to try to figure out a way to put the lotus flower in there, but I'm not sure how to fit all that together. But I think I have decided. I saw I saw a forearm tattoo on someone that I thought was really awesome, and so those forearm tats are really nice, um, especially this one that I saw. But um, so I think that's what I'm going to do, probably on my right one because my other one's on my left shoulder. But I will tell you that I got some tea tree Paul Mitchell shampoo for myself, and I will go out of my way to change up my shower routine just to shampoo my hair with that and leave it on there as long as I can. I mean, I just take these big, massive inhales in the shower in the morning. That is, it's top three smells forever. I mean, come on, man. And it's got to be that brand. Like, it's got to be the Paul Mitchell, which is too expensive, but man, it is good stuff. Finally, I know it's been like 3 weeks since an episode. It's been really choppy. Um, I I just got a new laptop that'll be here next week because the laptop that I use um, is the school's, and so I don't, there's some filters on there, and so I'm really hesitant to write my personal stuff on there, and it's just difficult for me to write on my phone, and but I've got this, part of me, this new me, I guess. I do want to do some writing, and I want to write my story. I want to write letters to friends. I want to write a journal or sermons, or whatever. I want to write. um, things to my kids, and maybe even maybe I don't know if I'm a fiction guy, but maybe we'll see. So I do intend, um, I think my machine is supposed to be here early next week. And so with that renewed focus on writing, then that should give me plenty of things to to ramble on about here at at the Madness. But I appreciate you coming back, even on an inconsistent basis on my end. But yeah, I hope you have a great weekend. This has been a Church of Six production, brought to you by the Bucket of Life, by the Wall of Belief, by the Token of Hope, the Magic Rock times two, the Foundation Tower of Stone, and the Rope of Relationship. Nothing divine is desperate. May all your circumstances serve to awaken compassion, and as you go, teach peace. Don't forget to believe, y'all, and be live. Who are you? Grace and peace, my friends.